Hello Taurus, welcome to your weekly tarot reading here on Dove and Serpent Tarot. This is for the week of March 19th through 25th. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, especially if this reading resonates with you. Now this is going to be a general reading, so, try to be open and receptive to whatever may come through during our time together. I am merely the messenger. And I ask you to connect directly with each of these cards and use your own intuition to take you beyond just the details that I'm providing, okay? Remember that the most important part of any tarot reading is you. And look at this, we have a Prince of Cups to start us out. Let's put that into some context because I feel like that's a big kind of variable, right? We don't know if that's representing you, perhaps, or somebody in your life, or maybe somebody that's no longer in your life. I've got a lot of interesting cards here. Let's do our mystery card, bonus card, confirmation card. And I do just want to say that if there's anything you need me to pray over or meditate upon or send positive energy toward, please let me know in the comments, okay? So, we've got our mystery card. We're not going to look at that till the very end. And we're going to see how that might tie everything together and give us the confirmation that we need at the end of things. All right. So, looking around, we've got a major arcana over here, major arcana on the path of the serpent. We've got some fire, some water, some air. Over here, we've got some air, some earth, a little bit more air. So it's fairly balanced. I think whatever is going on this week, you are more than equipped to handle. Okay. I don't think it's anything really too devastating, but I do feel like it's going to involve a sort of renewal for you, okay? And maybe that's because we're moving into spring, at least here in the northern hemisphere, so it could be just a real chance for you to start fresh, right? Begin anew. The first card that we had is this Prince of Cups. Now, I think you are definitely the type of person that is... you're a little bit cautious with how much you share with others, right? I think you have a very rich imagination, a very vivid and active kind of inner world, right? I don't think that you always share that with everyone. I think sometimes you feel maybe a lack of confidence in expressing yourself. I think that you, again, you have a tremendously rich and active inner world, your imagination, your aspirations, your fantasies, your desires, all of it, right? I think that you're cautious with how much you share. I feel like you have a very well-defined mask that you wear. We all do, our persona. I think that you tend to keep yours on even at home sometimes, I think even when you are alone, perhaps, it's difficult for you to relax and just be yourself and to let your kind of that rich inner world just take over and kind of become reality for a time, right? So even when you are kind of withdrawn from your work life, your social life, or from your responsibilities, it's still difficult for you to relax, difficult for you to feel comfortable expressing all of this kind of these inner desires and these this imagination, these fantasies that you have. Okay, and I think a lot of that is because of the way that you were raised, perhaps. We see in the recent past this Chariot card. I think this is going a little bit further back than the recent past. I think that this is some kind of defense mechanisms that we've learned as children, okay? I think that you come from perhaps some very traditional upbringing, very kind of maybe strict parents. I feel like they were maybe a little bit overly cautious with you and maybe didn't allow you to do a lot of the things that you expressed an interest in doing. Maybe you were kept under a very kind of careful and watchful eye, very kind of strict upbringing. and very traditional too. And so there wasn't a lot of room for you to express your creativity or your interest in various subjects. And you kind of had to develop a bit of a thick skin, I think. You know, kind of like the charioteer with that armor. It's difficult to really see what's going on behind the mask, right? Behind the shield of armor. And I think it's become difficult for you even to see what is kind of behind this mask, okay, behind your armor, right? So I feel like this week is an opportunity for you to process a lot of this kind of stuff that's going on, okay? I think specifically in the present situation, there is a relationship going on, I think, with this air sign person that's down here beneath everything on the path of the dove, okay? This is the Queen of Swords, and I think that this is a personal relationship, an emotional relationship, but it may be happening. I was going to say it's happening at work, but I'm thinking now it's something going on in the home. I don't know if this is a spouse or like a romantic partner, because I'm not getting any romantic vibes. Okay, so it's either a spouse or a partner that you're with, but it's almost as if it's like all business now. It's all a routine. It's all just kind of the mundane domestic part of the relationship, right? I don't feel like there's that real spark of fire. I don't feel like there's that real romance there. I think this is the person that you are spending most of your emotional time on. Okay, this is the person, I think, who you are probably sharing finances with, sharing a home with. It's somebody who is on your mind a lot, but there's no real spark of fire there. There's the chemistry seems to be really not active at the moment. Okay, and I think that may have to do in large part because of this reluctance or this apprehension to really share who we are, okay? And again, this is kind of that self-preservation, that self-protection, the instinct that you kind of built up over your lifetime. You have a very, like I said, a very rich inner world, a very a very vivid imagination, a very exciting kind of life, but there's a difficult for you translating that into the external, okay? And that is, again, usually a way of protecting ourselves. And I think that we, depending on how we're raised, we may be a little bit more or less prone to walling ourselves off in that kind of way, right? I do feel like there's kind of an enclosure around you. And I'm going to skip around a little bit because this Four of Discs is over here, and this is kind of the most solid card that we have. Out of all of these cards, they're all kind of air, and there's a little bit of fire, but it's mostly like the air and some water, and this is really the earth that we've got. Okay, looking around, yeah, there's no other earth cards. So we've got this one, and this is in the position of your relationships, your environment, and your resources. So I feel like you may be someone who's very focused on the routine aspects of your life, and this is maybe in your domestic situation, your living situation, okay? I think you're very focused on the routine, paying the bills, cleaning, going to work, all of the kind of routine, mundane stuff. And this is, it feels like a hyper focus on that, It feels like you're putting all of your time and effort into the routine things of life. Again, this could be, your employment, your career. It could be the responsibilities at home. It could be both of these things. The idea is that you're putting all of your attention into that so that you don't have to either figure out why there's a blockage between your internal world and your external life. And so you don't have to ever really take off that mask. You don't ever really have to look behind the armor or look behind the persona, okay? So there's a hyper-focus on these mundane, routine responsibilities of your kind of daily existence, And what that's doing, I feel like it's walling you off. It's isolating you a little bit. You know, I feel like it is a hyper focus on these kind of basic things that, you know, you're saying, well, these are my responsibilities. I have to take care of these things. But what you don't recognize, or maybe what you don't really want to recognize, is that you've already built this up significantly. You know, the walls are already quite high. The foundation now is, you know, as tall as a house. So it might be time to kind of move beyond these kind of basic, baseline, foundational needs and start pursuing higher aspirations. You know, what is it that is really within you? What is this Prince of Cups within you that is really, I think, wanting to get out, to be expressed, to find manifestation? I think this Three of Swords is kind of the doorway, the key to all of this. And this is usually representing an inability to escape from our memories, right? Especially painful memories of trauma, or of, you know, any kind of negative experience, right? Anything we don't really want to face. Sometimes we have a habit of thinking about these things too much, right? We get kind of locked into our imagination and we just relive these experiences over and over and over again, you know, because we keep running through the scenario, you know, mentally in our imagination. I think the opposite is true for you. I think the Prince of Cups here is, again, that person that has a lot going on internally, but they keep that persona on, they keep that mask on, they keep their armor on, and they never really activate this Three of Swords, right? Because it's through the processing and the kind of integration of these painful memories that we can kind of come to terms with them and let them go. Now, I'm no psychologist. I'm not a mental health professional in any way, shape, or form, right? So this is just some kind of common sense, folk wisdom, and tarot energy. Okay, this isn't supposed to replace any kind of professional psychological services. All right. But in my experience, and I think in a common sense way, we have to sometimes face these painful things in order to process them and let them go. Okay. So with the Three, there is an indication that something, and I think related to this Chariot, I think related to distant past, you know, childhood, young adulthood. I think there are a lot of issues, perhaps with the people who raised us, right? Our family environment. Whoever was kind of responsible for us, or whoever molded us when we were children, you know. I think there are a lot of issues there that are not really being dealt with. Okay, and, you know, I'm not trying to get anybody off on that kind of introspective path. You know, if it's not your will to do so, then this reading is not here to tell you that you have to face your painful memories. No, I just think this is what's blocking this Prince of Cups from finding that almost pure expression, you know? That's all I'm saying. It just seems like the Three of Swords is covering this Prince of Cups. I mean, literally in the spread, but also is kind of the blockage. That's like the, you know, that's just like the red tape that we have to cut through to really get to this flow of expression. Okay. And again, I think with this Queen of Swords, this is your person. This is someone, a relationship that you have that I really do think is like a marriage or a spouse relationship, or it's supposed to be a romantic relationship. But I feel like it's all kind of routine and mundane and predictable, and I don't feel like there's chemistry in there. But I do feel like you want that. Okay, we've got a Six of Wands here at the top of the Path of the Dove. I feel like you really want that shared experience, right? The Six of Wands is the Three of Wands doubled, right? Three of Wands within you, finding the Three of Wands in someone else or as a response from the universe, right? And the Three of Wands is your spark. It is the process by which you engage your spirit, your soul, your force, your fire, your chemistry, right? That spark that's within you. It's there, it's recognized, and then it is put forth into the world. Okay, and with the Six, you want that same thing back from the universe, from your person. So you're looking for that connection. You're looking for that spiritual connection, that really deep soul level connection with someone, you know. And I think it's kind of what you're hoping for in your current relationship. But this is almost like it's a higher ideal. This is like still that mountain that you want to climb. It feels as if this is kind of a distant thing. It would be nice, but I've got to do all this stuff here. I've got to work on I have responsibilities. You know, I'm so busy with these things that, you know, this is nice to kind of look at in the distance and fantasize about and dream about. But again, I think you've even stopped doing that. I think maybe at one time in your life you were a vivid dreamer, and maybe you were very creative. You probably used to, I was going to say write, but maybe visual arts is more your thing. Maybe you're a sculptor, painter, photographer, something like that. I think that you once had this really kind of easy flow between your internal and external, right? You had this very creative energy, very spontaneous. It's like everything you did had that Three of Wands spark, that chemistry, right? But something kind of turned things in a different direction for you. Okay, and I don't know if it's still related to this Chariot card, if it's something to do with the people who raised you, but I feel like there was a time in your life when you had this kind of spontaneity, where you had a free flowing between your internal and external. Okay, but now I feel that it's all kind of focused on these routine things. It's you're so busy, you're so preoccupied with these earthly things that there's no time for these higher aspirations, okay? But they are still there. The higher aspirations are still there. And I think that when the time comes and you start putting forth this energy, I think the universe is going to respond with the similar energy, you know? In the immediate future, we do see a 10 of Cups. So I think you're kind of coming to, things are coming to a head here. Okay, I think that with the Ten of Cups, it is almost, it's almost like this really exhausted feeling, you know. I think you're reaching a point where you've just put so much time into these mundane things, the routine of life, your job, your home, and just, you've focused everything. You've had this preoccupation with this Four of Discs, that I think you're starting to feel just exhausted by that. And I don't mean physically, but I mean like emotionally exhausted by trying to keep yourself preoccupied with this, that you're finally kind of fed up, you know. You finally have this spiritual exhaustion. I don't know how else to describe it. It just feels like, I don't know how to describe the feeling that I'm getting, but it's sort of an overwhelmed feeling. It's a feeling as if you you can't continue on this path because it's just, you're kind of weighed down by even the thought of just continuing in this routine and not having this higher aspiration in your life. You know, the key word for the Ten of Cups is satiety. This is being so full that you can't eat another bite. And this is the feeling where you can't look at food because it just makes you sick to look at it. I'm so full, I don't even want to think about food. So it's kind of a similar thing going on here. I think that to imagine another day, to even think about another day where you're just doing this routine life right? With nothing higher, nothing to bring you joy or inspiration or that chemistry, is kind of not, it's not very appealing, right? It's kind of disgusting you a little bit, to be honest. So we move directly from the Ten of Cups to the Ten of Swords, right? So this is the feeling that we get, and this is you thinking about going another day like this, and you just can't do it. You're at the end of the rope. Something does need to change, right? You've got to put forth some sort of effort, and it could be related to this 3, right? We're talking a lot about the 3s today. So the 3s in the mental sphere are really about understanding who you are and understanding what you've been through in your life, whatever this kind of chariot situation is, right? Whatever has put you into this self-protective mode, okay? I think it has something to do with the people who raised you, or the way that you were raised or something. But it's coming to a realization about that history, accepting it, processing it, using it to our advantage, right? Using it as fuel for the fire, for this 6 of Wands fire, for using it to motivate us and inspire us, right? Rather than to keep us kind of locked into either this darkness, right, which is the overthinking. You're kind of spending too much time, because you do have the tendency when you get started on something to kind of latch onto it, right? Just like we see with the 4 of Discs, it's like that seems to be working. That's kind of that's keeping you occupied, so you are just hyper focused on that. So there's a tendency now for this attachment or hyper focus. We want to avoid that when it comes to the mental aspect of this work and rehashing these memories and processing all of these scenarios that we've been through, right? But I think that they can be the doorway that's going to get you out of this this tower, right? This is kind of, I'm almost expecting a tower energy here in this mystery card, because this is kind of looking like the tower that we're building. It's kind of a bird's eye view of the tower. And we're building it higher and higher and higher, and eventually this tower is going to have to collapse, or we're going to have to get out of here, right? Because this is very isolating. You're building your own kind of prison around you, right? So this is, this is kind of a fine line. It's kind of a tightrope walk with this 4 of Discs or Pentacles. Because we need a stable foundation. We need safety and security in our life, right? So hyper-focused on the physical parts of life is better than not enough focus. It's better than a lack of focus, right? This 4 of Discs also, by the way, could be a hyper-focus on fitness, on health and well-being, right? As well as your finances and your domestic life, your career. So it's better to have too much focus than not enough, right? But too much still has its dangers. We're still building this tower brick by brick, day by day, higher and higher and higher walls, okay? Which is going to make it a longer fall when we finally escape the tower, right? You get out now, you're still pretty close to the ground. If it gets sky high, that's a pretty far fall, okay? It's going to be more difficult to recover from that breakthrough, that escape, that change, okay? And speaking of change, we do have the Death card here, which is not a spooky, scary card. This is basically what is happening with this tower, right? The tower gets too high, we are kind of chopping it down halfway, or 2/3, whatever you think's appropriate. We're making it smaller. We're stopping at a certain, let's, instead of going 10 stories, we'll just go 2 stories. We'll call it a day. And then when you leap out, you're still pretty close to the ground, okay? Not literally. Not literally. It's metaphor. So the Death card now is about taking this definite step, having this kind of decision in your mind, in your heart, that you're gonna make this change, that you're gonna deal with whatever these issues are that we see back here, and you're going to go after the Six of Wands. Go after your higher aspirations, right? Take your life to the next level kind of thing. And that's going to be kind of a starting over process. It's going to have to be kind of taking everything back to square one, right? We've got the square with the 4. Taking everything back to square one and starting again and starting in a different way. Still focus on your health and your wealth, right? Your fitness and your finances, but have a little bit more balance, right? Do the 4 of discs, yeah, but don't forget about the 6 of wands, right? The 6 of wands. And keep in mind your higher ideals. Keep in mind the reason why you're doing all of this. Why is it that you want to have such a secure foundation, right? It's not just for its own sake, you know. It's like you've been hoarding power. You've been hoarding your spiritual energy. Not just for its own sake, you know. What's the purpose of accumulating if it's just going to sit there, if we're not putting it to any kind of use? It's not doing anything, right? So have your foundation, have your strong castle, have your tower, have all of your resources, have your abundance, have your strength, but put it toward a purpose, right? Figure out what you want to aim all of that toward, okay? And that's being indicated by this death card. It's going to be a major change. It's going to be as if you were starting over with things, okay? And I think that this is, it's a significant change, okay? I think that it's going to be probably a little frightening. This card's in the position of your fears, worries, and concerns. So it's going to be a major transformation for you. And that's kind of frightening, right? That can be frightening. So that's the obstacle, I think. And it is necessary, because I think that being the only 2 major arcana in the spread, I think these 2 are significant. Okay, this is, I believe, our upbringing, how we were raised, and the issues related to that. And this death energy is the finally being done with this, getting past these issues and starting over, starting fresh, right? Dealing with this in such a way that it loses its power over you, okay? And you can be reborn, renewed, rejuvenated. What we see next, however, is a 5 of swords. And I don't like ending on a pessimistic note. If you watch this channel, you know how I feel about the 5 of swords. It feels to me like a lack of self-esteem, a lack of confidence, lack of faith and trust in yourself. But, you know, with this card, I feel like we could flip it upside down. We could put spirit back on top. This card, this way, is telling me that you are keeping your 6 of Wands, your higher aspirations, whatever your goals, ideals, your inspirations are, your aspirations. You're keeping all of that higher stuff squished, pushed down, suppressed underneath the elements, underneath the manifested world, underneath your routine, your responsibilities, your kind of daily life, you know, the physical world. You're pushing it down, right? And that spirit, that spiritual energy is what I think is being blocked by, well, blocked by the chariot events or circumstances. But really, the threshold, the doorway, is the 3 of swords, right? Just kind of actively dealing with these issues rather than keeping them pushed down here beneath everything. Right? It's this energy that needs to come up. This spiritual energy needs to come up, and with it will come all of these issues, all of these memories, all of these feelings. But eventually, spirit will be back on top, and spirit will be your guiding principle. Okay? Like I said, you build your tower. Yeah, build your tower, and you know, accumulate your power and your resources and your health and your wealth, but put it towards a good use, right? Put spirit back on top. Give spirit the wheel. and allow that energy, that aspiration, that spiritual impulse, your sense of divinity or grace, whatever it is, whatever you call it. Use that as your guiding principle to direct the usage of all of your resources, because I really feel like you're someone who's kind of accumulating stuff. I almost feel like you're kind of hoarding. You're hoarding emotions. You're hoarding resources. You're hoarding your spiritual energy, right? And I think putting spirit back on top and allowing ourselves to be guided by our higher nature, God, goddess, deity, whatever you call it, I think is the way to go. Okay. I know this was a pretty heavy reading. We're going to look at this mystery card now. Okay. Thinking about things now, we already have a lot of air here. I almost feel like the energy, it's going to happen. I think what's in the way is the air energy, right? Because we started with the Three of Swords thing. That's kind of the blockage. That's what we're avoiding. That's what we're kind of, the activity that we're not interested in engaging right now. And that's kind of what's keeping things how they are. And then we ended with the Five of Swords, and that was, again, they're air cards. It's a mental kind of thing. I almost think this is going to be more air energy, and I'm worried this is going to be an Eight of Swords, but maybe it'll be a good thing if this is the Eight of Swords, right? Because maybe, like I said earlier about how you're creating this kind of your own prison, your own tower around you. Well, I think what we need to realize is that it's a mental tower. It's a mental prison. It's in the air. It's not real. It's not actual concrete and mortar and bricks, you know. It's something that we can get through. It seems like it should be easy to get through it, right? It's just air. There's not much resistance in the air. But it seems like it's the most difficult aspect of the work to actually get through and get started. Okay, and I think that's because we have such complex, thinking apparatus. It's the psyche is, I know, pretty wild. But Eight of Swords, yeah, Eight of Swords, upside down. So the Eight of Swords, we are creating this prison, this tower around us. And I think what's important to recognize, and I kind of wish I was using the Rider-Waite deck because I love the image of the Eight of Swords on the Rider-Waite Smith deck. Because it shows a figure who is bound and hoodwinked, blindfolded, and thinking that they're imprisoned, thinking that there's no escape. This is my fate, my doom. I'm stuck in this position. But there are all of these swords around them, all of these means of escape. They could easily cut their bindings and remove the blindfold, and then they can navigate out of the muck that they're in, So it's it's almost like that. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this or heard this, but it's like a corral of sheep or something where there's no fence, but there is still a gate, and all the sheep will assume they're still in the corral, and they will only go through the gate. I don't know if something. I think some of you maybe have seen that, but it's kind of a similar idea. There is this perceived prison around us. It's like we're surrounded by chain link fence, but it's not really there. You know what I mean? We could easily just push our way through it if we wanted to. If we recognized it as not being there, then it would be easy to manipulate it, right? It reminds me of the scene in The Matrix where the little boy bends the spoon. How does he bend the spoon? With his mind, not just bends the spoon with his mind. And his explanation of how he does that is that in reality there is no spoon. So you could do whatever you want with it. I guess that's the idea. But being surrounded by this tower, it's something that we created, and it's mostly in our imagination. It's a projection of our imagination. And so the idea with the Eight of Swords is that we can push through that. Okay? And I don't want to dwell too long on this because I think the Five I think the Five of Swords, right side up like this, is the way to go, putting spirit back on top. But we have to recognize also that it's a prison of our own devise, and it's a mental, it's a tower in the air, let's say. So, it is something that we can penetrate. Okay. We're going to do an extended. If you want to stick around, please click on the link that's right up here, and you can have access to all of the extended readings. This was your weekly reading, March 19 through 25 on Dove and Serpent Tarot.